As we start our second week to Norway, we are back in Amsterdam. And of course, no better way to start off a trip in Amsterdam than with a canal tour. This was our second time to do it, and we learned a little bit more as we went along this trip. But it was an exciting trip down the canals again. And of course, you got to take a picture of this sign. Who hadn't thought about that? And the other thing is a picture of this store. Yeah, you're going to have to look up what they sell yourself, but I can't imagine what you would use that for. And after a little more sightseeing, it's back to the port, where this is the second leg of our back-to-back, where we'll go to 4 different ports in Norway to continue the adventure. Our first stop is Oslo, Norway, where we'll have to go to the top of that theater to see the view. But first, we hop on a hop-on, hop-off bus to take a quick tour of the town. It's an easy way to get an overview of the area, and it's fairly cheap. It was maybe $30 a person to see the town. Then we can come back later and go into detail what we like the best. There were harbors all around town, but we found this harbor particularly interesting because the kids would go to a sauna, run out the back of the sauna, and jump into the freezing cold water. Yeah, not for me. We walked to the top of the theater to get a quick look around to see what all else there was in the city and spotted this train station. So we walked through town and went and got a quick snack right at the train station. Town was spotlessly clean. No trash anywhere around town. So it's perfect for walking. As we left Oslo, a guide narrated our trip down the fjords from the top of the crow's nest. And this is an observation area at the very top of the ship. So it has the best views around the ship, 360 degrees almost. We could see the lighthouses, and of course, being a history person, I liked watching the old gun emplacements of the Norwegian and later the German soldiers. So this is some of the forts that are leaving out. Sunset brings the day to an end in Oslo, and bright and early the next morning, we wake up to Kristiansand. We opted to just stroll around town and see what we could see. And there's a good bit to check out. It's a smaller town, so it's not a hustle and bustling place. So we walked around the riverfront and went to the fish market to see what they had there. Again, another spotlessly clean town full of flowers. And of course, as you're walking along, checking everything, what do you know? We run into another fort. Of course, we have to go there. This one looks like an older one. It's round with a cannon out front. Not sure how far back it goes, but it was a nice little walk, and we took a little break sitting there. A local gave us a guide map showing us around town, and we just followed the guide through the old town and then along all the newer churches. Seems like there's a church on every corner, but hey, it's a nice place. And like I say, the town is spotless with flowers everywhere. And of course, no town tour is complete without a troll. So, yeah, there he is. And of course, being from Louisiana, we spotted the Cajun burger at Burger King and off to McDonald's. It's a swanky McDonald's. Most expensive one I ever had, too. About $30 for 2 meals there. And for our history lesson today, this is Wilhelm Krog. Didn't know who he was, but after looking up, he was a poet, and I didn't know it. And with the sun setting on another beautiful day in Norway, it's off to our next port. Bright and early, it's Stavanger, another small town. But today it was raining on us, so we ended up having to wear our rain gear and got a little wet, so we cut the day a little short. But it was nice walking around, seeing the traditional dress of the area and checking out the Lego stores. And we couldn't say enough about all the pretty flowers yet again scattered throughout town. Everything's immaculately landscaped. And this was the best stop of the second week, Flam. Everywhere you turn was breathtaking view after breathtaking view. This was awesome scenery just pulling into the port here. And then once we got in, it was even better. I had to run down and make sure Cheryl was awake for this stop. Couldn't get any prettier than that. Run back up to get a quick view of the city. And of course, the city wasn't much to it. Surrounded by mountains, there was a grocery store, a train station, and a couple of little hotels, and the rest were houses and farms. So it was picturesque, to say the least. We splurged for an excursion at this port and took the Flam Railway to the top of the mountain. This trip cost a good bit. It was about $350, $400 a person, but well worth it. Of course, it's some of my favorite things, trains, history, and going to see the scenery. Everywhere you looked were waterfalls. The train made a little stop at one of the waterfalls for us to see the Maiden of the Mist, the goddess of the waterfall. The stop at the waterfall was carved out between two tunnels. That's where they had the Maiden of the Mist. And I can't pronounce this waterfall name. It wasn't long till back on the train and going through the next tunnel. Going to the top of the mountain, they had a lodge at the very top where they had made waffles. So we had waffles and jam looking out at the scenery. Everything was excellent. It was about this time that we got word of a medical emergency on the train coming to pick us up. So our stay at the top of the mountain would be extended for a couple of hours. So we said a quick prayer for the person who had the medical emergency and took off on a quick hike. Loving the scenery along the way with all the snow-capped mountains. Something that we don't get to normally see in South Louisiana. After our quick hike, I wandered around the lodge to see what was around, and yes, I found a bar. So I had a beer and some of the best scenery I could have imagined. But before long, the train started back and we loaded back up and started going back down the mountain to our ship. And so enjoying the scenery along the way and got to see the waterfall experience one more time. We loaded back up for the scenery going back down the mountain and seeing all the stuff that we missed before. You could see the train tracks cut into the edge of the mountain, or the road we would have to take in case the train was unable to come pick us up. Yeah, that would be for an interesting ride up. The only wildlife we saw were goats, and they were just a fleeting sight as they were running away. The train dropped us right off at the ship, but we had to make a few stops at the tourist stands to see what all was there. And of course, back on the ship for our last final farewell to the fjords of Norway. I hope you liked our video of the fjords of Norway, where we did back-to-back cruises on Holland America's Rotterdam. And as always, to help the channel out, hit that like and subscribe button at the bottom. There, we can continue on with our next adventures.